Good afternoon. Welcome to the latest edition of Miami Hurricanes Talk with Danny, presented by Lorraine Sports. Uh, Join Canes Connection at canesconnection.com. If you remember, if you want to buy the shirt, we bring the smoke. Go to lorrainesports.myshopify.com to order that. I'll put all that in the description if you're watching on YouTube. My guest this week in this episode is Jeff Culhane. Now, Jeff Culhane, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, you are a native of Mitchell, South Dakota?
You've done your research, Danny. Well
Okay,
done. I like
thank
that.
you. Graduate of Dakota Wesleyan. A little bit about,
That
tell
is
me about that
correct.
school. Tell me about Dakota Wesleyan a little bit.
Very small school in my hometown of Mitchell, South Dakota. I played 4 years of college football, 1 year of baseball. And for me at that point in my life, it was the right place to be. I got to stay close to home, obviously, and after that, was ready to branch out and go chase down my dream.
Hey, excellent. And your dad, Steve, and your uncle Kevin are I understand are legendary sports voices in South Dakota.
Um, I'll have to ask my dad if he considers himself legendary. That'll be a good cover. He's coming down here actually Saturday to
Okay.
Tallahassee from South Dakota, so I'll bring that up to him.
Okay. Yes.
Um, but they were huge influences on me, obviously, Danny. You know, my dad is my dad, right? He's my hero,
Yes.
so that goes without saying. And he was the first one to introduce me to a broadcast booth. He's a school manager or the business manager of our school district where I grew up, and was also, a huge sports fan, and worked some broadcasting and public address announcing as well in his spare time. And so I was just kind of around a microphone at an early age, indirectly. And my uncle Kevin was in radio and TV, tremendous broadcaster, great voice. He really fanned the flame for my passion of broadcasting when I was in college, and he hired me as my first job out of college. I went to work for him, so those two have had huge impacts on me.
Yes. Career highlights, of course, the voice of FSU since I believe June of 2022, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
That's
Yeah.
correct. You bet.
Replaced an icon in Gene
Mm-hmm.
Deckerhoff. And I know you spoke, people have asked me, what's it like, and I won't say replace a legend, to fill the shoes of a guy who was iconic in that state? And of course, here in Tampa Bay, still with the Buccaneers.
Yeah. Well, he's my guy. I text with Gene all the time. We texted, before the Monday night game on Monday night, and we have a text group with our crew and with Gene. And I tell people, hey, you can't replace that guy. You can't fill his shoes. You just got to put your own pair on and have fun along the
Okay.
way and see what happens.
Yeah.
And so he's been so supportive. We still have him as a part of the broadcast. We still have his voice on the broadcast. I think
Yes.
that's always going to happen.
Yes. Yes.
And so he's my friend, my mentor. I love him, and I'm so blessed to have him around to talk to bounce ideas off of, and get his thoughts on things from time to time.
That was the one guy I wish I had gotten on a podcast. To me, of course, I live in Tampa Bay, and he's an absolute icon here. And to the Buccaneers, on a personal note, Jeffrey, if I may, can you please put Gene Deckerhoff in the Ring of Honor? Can you please put him in the
Oh,
Ring
I
of
would
Honor?
love it.
You
Yeah,
kidding me?
he
That's
is.
unbelievable.
Hall of Fame after Hall of Fame. We went down and joined him. Bar none, and Andy Surratt and I went to the Breakers in Palm Beach. He was inducted the first Hall of Fame class of the Florida Broadcasters Association Hall of Fame in June, and he was there. His wife Ann was there. It was a great night. It was a great event, and yeah, he deserves every
Everything.
accolade, every Hall of
Everything.
Fame, all of them,
Yes,
all of
and he
them.
has two Super Bowl rings, which I'm glad he has here.
Yes, he does.
Yes,
Yes, he
Radio
does.
Boy, you also have your own podcast, I believe, for Florida State, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. We're in a little bit of a transition phase with that. We're kind of rebranding that,
Mm-hmm.
repurposing that with some of the changes with our group. But it was called the Behind the Mic podcast. We are going to come out with a new podcast that covers Florida State athletics. That will happen here in the very near future. But yeah, 140 episodes of that over the last 2 years on all streaming platforms, and so I'm sure for Canes fans, that's
Yes.
something they'll dial up every week as a assignment listening, I would
Yes,
guess, right?
yes, yes. Also, radio voice of the South Dakota Coyotes, 2001 to 2007. Play-by-play voice of South Dakota women's basketball. You had other positions there. Then you went to Lincoln. What was that like for 6 years as part of the Nebraska Cornhuskers? You did studio in studio. You
Yeah.
hosted nightly sports.
Danny was awesome. Yeah, it was my first introduction to big time college athletics from within. It was a place that I knew I needed to go to at that time of my career to get where I needed to go. And I work with just amazing people who have done great things in their careers. Greg Sharp, he and I came into Lincoln around the same time. He's still the play-by-play voice of the Huskers. Lane Grindle is a great friend. He is now a essentially the 1B to Bob Euchre on the Milwaukee Brewers radio broadcast.
Wow, yes.
And and so guys like that, Matt Davison, a former player, was on the broadcast. So it was a time for me where I got to really kind of spread my wings a little bit, dabble, and learn more and more about what it's like to work within a major athletic department.
Yeah, absolutely. Then you went to West Virginia. I mean, hosted the fifth quarter post game, the Mountaineer tailgate show. You were the play-by-play of women's basketball and also baseball. Baseball in West Virginia, they've gotten good the last couple years.
But it's been a lot of I love baseball. I do not call baseball at Florida State. Eric Llewellyn does a great job doing that, so I'm enjoying being a fan of
Yes,
FSU baseball. But I called baseball everywhere I was at: Nebraska, West Virginia, North Dakota State. I'm sure we'll talk about here in a second.
yes,
But yeah, Big 12 baseball and really the rise of the WVU baseball program,
yes.
where they used to play in an old high school park,
Wow.
and they built a brand new stadium with an amazing view of the mountains,
Yes.
and the fans really embraced it. So that at that point in my career, Danny, I really got to spread my wings as a play-by-play guy. Try some things, fail, learn, and grow. And that was a special time in Morgantown.
Definitely trial and error there. Trial and error. And then North Dakota State, we mentioned North Dakota State. You replaced an icon in Scott Miller, who I understand was an icon in North Dakota.
Oh yeah, Scotty Miller was the best. Sadly passed due to melanoma,
Oh boy, that's
and yep. And so that was a bittersweet time for a lot of Bison fans, right? Because he was their guy and had been calling the games for 20 years. He was on the mic for the 5 consecutive national championships in
that's
the
a
FCS level.
mhm.
Yep. And really the rise in the Division I era of North Dakota State athletics. And so what it replaced the best. He was amazing. And it really touched me when I would have some of his closest friends reach out and, you know, say, "Hey, Scott would be proud of you with what you're doing right now." And
Yes,
so
now in
to get
Tallahassee.
those, yeah, to get those kinds of notes from time to time really was special. And that was a special place. My wife and I bought our first house together there. We had both of our boys in Fargo. I shouldn't say we, she did. I stood and watched. And so special place for us, and we've got great friends there that'll certainly last a lifetime.
Legendary Dakota athletes before we go on to last week's game. Roger Maris from North Dakota.
Yep.
Boxer Virgil Hill from South Dakota.
Yep.
To me, two legendary athletes there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
and by the way, last week against Duke, last week we saw the game last Friday night onto Florida State. 1-6 on the year. Let's call it what it is. Tough season. Brock Glenn, how has Brock Glenn been able to fill in for DJ, knowing that how much DJ has struggled this year?
Yeah, it's tough year. You said it. It's been a tough year, and one that nobody saw coming. I think that's probably the most frustrating part about it, head scratching part about it. I think we've got the talent to be a good football team, but it just hasn't gone our way. We have not played good football this season. But to answer your question, I think Brock's been put in some really tough spots. He hasn't played a lot of football. He was injured for the majority of the season last year after
Mhm.
the Southern Miss game. And so he missed out on some time there in development and practice time. And then was thrust into impossible situations against Louisville in the ACC title game, was able to manage that and get us to a win. And then, of course, the game against Georgia at Hard Rock. I mean, nobody would have had a shot at
No.
that in that situation. So, he has been put in some tough spots. He is very talented. He is very confident. He had a tough go Friday night with some of the things that happened in that game. But I believe that it's in there. I believe that he has got the skill set to run the offense the way Mike Norvell wants it. He's got great arm strength. He can throw the ball with efficiency, and he's got some athleticism too. He can move it with his legs. So he just needs time.
Yeah.
He just needs time. He's only played in 5 games, and all of them have been in really tough spots. So it has been a challenging start to his collegiate career with the opportunities that he's had.
Yeah, and I've noticed a couple things. The backup Luke, I pronounce it. Help me with this name, Luke Kromenhoek. If
You
I'm bad,
got it, Cromanhawk.
Kromenhoek, 3 for 7, 19 yards in a tough spot as well. Cam Davis, pretty good back, 63 last week. Then you had Ja'Kai Douglas on the receiving end, 48 yards on 4 receptions. Lawrence Tall Feely, to me, that's the kind of back that could do it all. No, but he only had 9 for 23 yards and then 39 yards receiving. Has he
Yeah.
regressed this year in a way?
I think he has. He just has not had a ton of touches overall. He's our leading rusher. He's our best running back. But we struggle to run the football. Our offensive line's been banged up. I think this is, last week, Danny, I think we had, what was it, game 7?
Yeah.
So, we've had 6 different offensive lines.
Wow.
And how do you have continuity and
You can't.
success there,
You
right?
can't. You can't.
So just really tough. And the injury bug has bit us pretty hard this season at inopportune times. It's not an excuse. It's just
No.
reality.
Yeah.
And so that part of it has been tough. And so we just have not run the ball well. The Duke game was our best rushing game of the season. So that
Yeah.
was a bright spot.
Hmm.
So, we're learning some things. They're coming together. But offensively, we've got to be better up front. Our wide receivers have to be more consistent catching the football. That will help our young quarterbacks out in a big time way. And we'll have to have that against the best offense in college football in Miami
No, that's
Saturday night.
fine. I looked at. By the way, Duke. The defense last week. I was pretty impressed when I saw this. 180 total, 180 yards rushed, 180 yards allowed, 70 in the air, 110 rushing. You held Duke to 3 for 17 on third downs. And the thing is, but they held the ball for 30 minutes. How do you try to limit
Yep.
that against an offense this good the way Miami's going to come in on Saturday night with?
Ooh, yeah, it's just a different challenge, right? Like, you build off of what you did Friday. And yeah, I thought our defense was great, Danny. Honestly,
I saw that too.
outside of no sacks and no turnovers, I mean, you would love to have those. We did have a pick, but we had a penalty on the play.
Yeah, I did see that.
And yeah, and we've had some inopportune penalties. We had those in this game. We've got to play clean football to win Saturday night, without a doubt. I mean, you've got to be able to win first down, and you've got to be able to win third down against Cam Ward and the Miami offensive attack, right?
Yeah.
So it's a lot harder to do. Easier said than done, because nobody has done it this year against them. So it's certainly a huge challenge against a very good Miami offense and a very good Miami football team. But I've liked our defense, Danny. I mean, I think
I have seen
they've
that.
had some moments. Yeah, they've had some moments where they could have been better and tougher in areas. But I'll tell you what, against Clemson and against Duke, I've seen some pretty good football over the last 6 quarters or so. It has not been bad. So
Mm.
that's, to me, that's the big area of the game
Yeah.
is Miami's offense against Florida State's defense. Can we do it in that area? It's going to be a huge challenge.
No question. I think the hostile crowd, it's going to be a tough environment. Now, this is not the same team, obviously, as 2 years ago when they came to
Right.
Hard Rock and blew us out 45-3. And, many of our fans are looking for payback for that. But let me ask you
Yeah.
this. How do you prepare to face a physical Miami defense that attacks too?
Yeah, we got to be able to run the football, and we got to be able to hit plays when they do attack. I think Kiki Malinois is as good of a linebacker as there is in the ACC. I love the front. Ruben Bain is a star. Mesidor and that crew along the interior, those guys are fantastic. Basaint is a guy that's played a lot of football against us. So, they've got a lot of very, very good pieces. You can't turn it over, right? You cannot throw a pick six like we did. You've got to value the football. I know that's coach speak, but it's true. You cannot give Miami's offense extra possessions and put Florida State's defense in a bad spot.
No
It
doubt
will
about
not
it.
work. So
Not against that team.
you got to take care of the ball, and our wide receivers got to step up. We got to win one-on-one battles. And this is, I'm not trying to disrespect Miami. This is just fact.
Yeah,
Teams have been able to score on Miami.
yes.
And so, there's opportunity there to put the ball in the end zone. Virginia Tech, Cal, Louisville have all
I was
scored.
at the Louisville game last weekend. I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
The one thing that concerns me, Jeff, is the outside. This backs getting to the outside and doing the damage, and we're giving up big plays. Too much in my opinion.
Yeah. So, I think you throw all that stuff out the window because there's so much emotion and energy. So, but you got to keep your head. There's going to be trash talk. It's going to be loud. But, for Florida State, Danny, you really have to weather the early knockout punch in this game because, like you said, the Canes are going to want to put it on us. They're going to want to come after us, especially for what happened there 2 years ago, right? And so you've got to get off to a good start. You got to keep the crowd somewhat subdued, and you just kind of got to weather the storm because they're going to make plays. They're going to hit some big plays offensively. How do you respond in those moments is going to be key.
Yeah. I was going to ask you something here. Now, given how tough this season has been, what thoughts do you have on any potential coaching changes FSU will have to make this offseason? Which ones would they be?
Well, look, to me, no matter what happens this season, Mike Norvell has done more than enough for he's not going anywhere.
No, Norvell's not going anywhere, but I'm talking on the staff.
It's not happening. It's not happening. So I see what people say, and Mike Norvell is a great coach.
Yes.
That doesn't change in 7 months. Okay.
No, absolutely.
This has been a tough season. These guys are coaching their tails off. They're working their tails off. They're doing the same things they did a year ago when they won 13 games. I mean, so it's just been a head scratching year. You run into those, unfortunately, from time to time. I don't know about changes. We will see how this last month finishes out. Look, if Florida State beats Miami, beats Florida, if we go to Notre Dame and have success or play better and have a chance to win, you see the improvement there over the last month of the regular season, right?
Yeah.
So I know that's a lot of big ifs because we haven't had a whole lot of evidence of that this year. But, if we do not and we struggle to finish strong, then I myself will be curious to see what happens. I don't know what will be talked about. I frankly don't like to talk about that stuff, Danny, to be honest with you, because I like all these guys. I don't want to see anybody move on or lose their jobs. I think all these guys are tremendous coaches and do a fantastic job. So, but, look, we're in an era where there's a lot of money involved, and it takes a large investment to win and succeed. And it's big boy business. The coaches know that. Everybody knows that when they sign up for this.
Yeah. Much of Florida State's team last year was the portal. Going forward, will it be more on high school recruiting, or will it still continue to be heavy on the portal for Florida State?
I think it just depends on, as you look at your roster on your grease board in the war room, what needs immediately need to be met for this team moving into 2025. And, I've heard this conversation, and I think it's a little bit of, honestly, I think it's a lot of us as talking heads filling air.
Yeah.
Because every situation is completely different than the other. Like the last 3 years, Florida State has been unbelievable in the portal. Unbelievable.
Yes.
They haven't missed, right?
No.
And so why would you go away from that? Well, you've had a year now where it hasn't gone as well. So now are you supposed to not go to the portal and get all high school guys, right?
Yeah.
And what's been the knock on Dabo Swinney? Well, he doesn't use the portal. Well, it looks like they're doing pretty well this year, right?
Yeah. Yes,
they're doing pretty good.
Yes, they are.
And so I think a lot of this conversation is just us filling time for stuff to talk about in the off season. I don't know if there's one right way to do it. I think it's all on a case by case basis. I think Miami was unbelievable in the portal, especially in the spring window
Yeah.
this year, Danny.
Yes, we did.
Like,
Getting
you know,
rewarded.
and so each year is different, each team is different. But I fully expect Mike Norvell in the offseason, this staff, to go, okay, where do we make mistakes last year? How can we fix those? And what do we need to stay away from? And these guys are going to get it right. They know their team, they know their personnel, they know their culture. I have no doubt that once this season comes to an end, that these guys are going to do what they need to do to fix some of the issues we've had this year.
Yeah. Okay, let's get back to the game. What are your keys to the game Saturday night, Jeff?
Got to get off to a great start, Danny. Cannot play from behind. Can do it. Can do it. It's that would be tough in that venue. So first quarter is huge. Cannot allow Miami and the Canes to get off to a 2-touchdown lead. You got to get them off the field. A lot easier said than done. Hey, I think Cam Ward is a Heisman front runner, but Cam at times has put the ball up in the air when he's tried to be creative. So can you get to him and force him to maybe make a mistake with some of that creativity, like we've seen at Cal and other situations, right?
Mm-hmm.
So get to him. If you can't bring him to the ground, don't allow him to get too far outside the pocket and extend the play. You can't turn it over. You can't give that guy more possessions than what he has. And we really need our wide receivers to have one of their best games of the year. Make plays in the passing game. When the ball is put where you got to catch it, you got to put you tuck it in and make a play and not put it to the turf. So, withstand the early knockout punch, take care of the football, and our wide receivers and offensive line have got to continue to progress and improve here as we move into the second half of the season.
My keys to the game, Jeff, from Miami. I'm looking on the other side. One, Cam's becomes Cam, but I need to see the defense and special teams tighten up a little more. If you've seen the last three games, Jeff, and I'm sure you have, the thing
Yeah,
that bothered me, and I was at the Louisville game, is we gave up too many big plays, especially on the outside, on the edges, and on the flats. We've got to do a better job containing that. We cannot continue to allow big plays. The one thing I do worry about, especially on the back end, is that's where we get in trouble. And I think we really have to do a better job on the back end of not allowing big plays and not being flat-footed.
yeah.
We have been flat-footed at times. Jeff, I know you can't make a prediction because you're calling the game. I'll give you my prediction instead.
Okay.
2 years ago, it was 45-3. Mario Cristobal said at the time, we want to be the ones on the other side of that. We have an
Yeah.
opportunity to do that Saturday night. We know FSU, listen, throw the records out the window. Okay, let's throw them out the window right here. They're 1-6, but that's still a dangerous club. Like especially on the last couple games defensively, like you said, the Clemson's, the Duke, etc. I think if we don't turn the ball over, we protect the football, we don't make mistakes, we force takeaways early, and that crowd's going to be electric Saturday night. It's going to be an orange out, by the way, at Hard Rock. I think Miami can win this game. This has been a long time in the making. It's not going to be as easy as people think it is. I think it's going to be a tough game for about a half, but I think in the second half, I think you start to see Canes really start to impose their will, you know, against a depleted FSU team. I think Miami wins going away in the second half. I'm going to go Miami 38, Florida State 21. That's my prediction. Jeff,
Okay.
thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And we will definitely do this again down the road for sure.
You got it, Danny. You're the best. Thanks for having me.
Thank
Appreciate
you,
you.
man. Let me just make sure I turn this off here for a second. Okay, now let me see. Okay, hold on. Let me end this. Let me see if I can end this here. Okay, it's recording. Yeah, I'll end it right here. There. Jeff, thank you so much, man. I'm gonna go.
You're good, Danny.
Thank you,
Appreciate you.
man. Thank
Thanks
you.
for having me.
Thank you. Thank you.